So there's been a huge Final Fantasy dump, and I'm going to talk about my top picks from all of them. So first up, Cloud Midgard Mercenaries, 2 white for a 2/1 legendary creature human soldier merc with when Cloud enters, search your library for an equipment card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle. As long as Cloud is equipped, if an ability of Cloud or an equipment attached to it triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. So for 2 mana, this card does a lot. Normally tutors are between 1 and 3 mana, but this guy comes in with a 2/1 body and an ability that doubles its triggers. He really has strong synergy with himself because you can tutor for a card that specifically triggers multiple times, making this card really efficient and really strong. Zanarkand Ancient Metropolis is a land town that enters the battlefield tapped and taps for 1 green mana. It also has, you can pay an adventure, you create a 1/1 colorless hero token, and you put a 1/1 counter on it for each land you control. So this is really unique because we've never seen an adventure that's also a land. It can be played early if you really need it, but then late game it is a massive beast in a ramp deck. You can make a huge creature and then immediately play this for a land tapped, continually ramping you and getting you value. So the card is pretty interesting, and I wouldn't be surprised if it saw play in ramp decks. So Fire Magic is a really versatile board clear. So it's 1 red mana, instant with Tired. Choose 1 additional cost. You can pay 0. Fire Magic deals 1 damage to each creature. You can pay 2, it deals 2 damage to each creature, and 5, it deals 3 damage to each creature. So first of all, it being an instant is really strong. And against the mono red aggressive decks, they run a few 1/1s, which this is 1-on-1 removal with those. But it's also really versatile because on turn 3 you can remove multiple creatures for 2, and the worst one is 5 to deal 3 damage to each creature. 5 is a lot of mana for 3 damage, but is a nice option for late. With all of its versatility, this is definitely the strongest early board wipe we have in Standard. So we might see some main board play, but definitely sideboard play for sure. So they're reprinting Ragavan Nimbleperfer, which is so awesome because the card is super powerful and really expensive, and this will make it a lot more affordable. Sid Timeless Artificer is 2 of any color, 1 blue and 1 white for a legendary creature human artificer. Artifact creatures and heroes you control get +1/+1 for each artificer you control and each artificer in your graveyard. A deck can have any number of cards named Sid Timeless Artificer, and it has cycling, 1 white and 1 blue. So this card is pretty decent. It will get sold a lot because any card that can be put any number in your deck gets sold out like crazy. But the reason I really wanted to talk about this card is to talk about all of the different arts this had. This card has 15 different art styles, which is kind of crazy, and it's really cool for a card that can have as many of them in your deck, because you can get every single art if you want. Otherwise, it's pretty decent. It can be your commander, and then you can run any amount of them in your deck, which is also really cool. It's just really unique. I don't think it's crazy busted or anything. I think it's just cool. Summon Bahamut is 9 mana for an enchantment creature saga dragon. Chapter 1 and 2, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Chapter 3, draw 2 cards. Chapter 4, this creature deals damage equal to the total mana of other permanents you control to each opponent. It's also a 9/9 with flying. So I think this is a really unique twist on sagas. It's a saga, but it's also a creature at the same time. And this card is kind of insane. The amount of value this does is absurd. Chapter 1 and 2 straight up removal, Chapter 3 some card advantage, and Chapter 4 will probably win you the game because you've had 3 turns to set up your board to just deal an insane amount of damage to your opponents. It is probably overkill, but this card is so ridiculously big, I had to talk about it. And it is colorless, so you can put it in any deck. Absolute Virtue is absolutely insane. It's 6 mana of any color, 1 white, 1 blue for an 8/8 legendary creature avatar warrior. This spell can't be countered. Flying, you have protection from each of your opponents. You can't be dealt damage, enchanted, or targeted by anything controlled by your opponent. What a crazy commander late game bomb. If you can protect this, there's just no way for your opponent to kill you. And it has a bit of protection by itself because it can't be countered. And then this is big 8/8 flying beater that you can hit your opponent with and not care about the crackback because your life can't change, which is so crazy. Honestly, for standard, it is a bit slow. 8 mana is a lot, and then it dies to straight up removal, which really sucks. But for commander, when the games go really, you can play this, and if your opponents have no way to deal with it, you just can't die. And then if you untap in a deck with a bunch of counter spells and protection, you can make sure that this guy lives forever, and if it lives forever, you do too. So yeah, crazy bomb. Vivi Ornithir is one of any color, 1 blue, 1 red, for a 0/3 legendary creature wizard. You can pay 0 at X mana of any combination of blue and or red, where X is Vivi's Ornithir's power. Activate only during your turn and only once each turn. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on Vivi Ornithir, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So this is a really strong Storm commander. You play it for 3, next turn, you cast a bunch of spells. You deal damage to each opponent. But then for each spell you've cast, you can make mana to cast more spells. You can also use pump spells on this creature, making its power really big, making a ton of mana. And the card just gets more ridiculous and more ridiculous the longer it goes. Because the next turn, you can make even more mana and deal even more damage. So this is a really cute commander piece. I think for standard it's a bit slow, but commander it makes a really cool command. Jidoor Aristocratic Capital is a land town. It enters the battlefield tapped, and it has an adventure. Pay 4 mana of any color and 2 blue. Target opponent mills half their library, rounded down. So this is pretty much an auto include in any mill deck, because it coming in tap does suck, but it is versatile enough and strong enough that you want to run it. It's also pretty cool if you want to mill yourself. If you're playing a self mill deck, this could put a ton of cards into your grave for not that much cost. I think this card is really powerful. I'm excited to see more cards that have this type of effect. Zodiark Umbral God is 5 black mana for a 5/5 legendary creature god with indestructible. When Zodiark enters, each player sacrifices half the non-god creatures they control of their choice, rounded down. And whenever a player sacrifices another creature, put a 1/1 counter on Zodiac. So I think this is a commander staple. If you're going in mono black, this card is kind of insane. There are a lot of commander strategies where they get massive boards, and it's each opponent. So when this enters, you can make your opponent sacrifice a lot of creatures, and then each of those gets a 1/1 counter on him, making him massive. It's also indestructible, so it's pretty hard to remove. And then you base the rest of your deck around this, playing a lot of cards that make your opponent sacrifice creatures, getting this guy bigger until you kill them with commander damage. That's pretty crazy. Too bad it's rounded down. That means if your opponent has 1 creature, they will sacrifice nothing. But 2 and above that, they will start sacrificing creatures, which is a lot of value for an indestructible 5/5. I think this card is really strong, and will definitely see some commander play. Even some standard play. The only problem I have with standard is the 5 black mana. That makes so you have to be playing mono black and no other colors, which makes this card a lot more restrictive, but still really cool. Summon Primal Odin is 4 of any color and 2 black for a 5/3 enchantment creature saga knight. First chapter, destroy target creature an opponent controls. Second chapter, This creature gains whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player. That player loses the game. Chapter 3. Draw 2 cards, each player loses 2 life. So 6 mana is a lot of mana, but this card comes in and gets immediate value by destroying a creature an opponent controls. And then chapter 2 is crazy, because if you did destroy a creature an opponent controls, and you've untapped, you have mana ready to remove all their creatures, you can just hit your opponent with this, and they lose the game. Isn't that kind of crazy? And even more, just more value, it also draws 2 cards and each player loses 2 life. So not only you do, but your opponents do too. So this is just like a ton of value. And I can see this in a commander game. You play it, your opponent shows that they have removal, you promise that you don't hit them, that you hit other people with it. So it makes it a lot more consistent, basically bribing your opponents and making the other players who don't have removal fear this card so much that it will literally win games. Like, what a crazy amount of text and so much value. You don't even need to kill your opponents for this card to give you a ton of value. It is crazy. So yeah, what an awesome card. Traveling Chocobo is 2 of any color, 1 green for a 3/2 creature bird. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play lands and cast bird spells from the top of your library. If a land or bird you control entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So you can completely forget the bird tribal stuff, and this card is still really strong. Being able to play lands from the top of your deck has always been good, but it doubling all your landfall triggers is crazy. There's a ton of landfall decks out there, and this card fits right in, doing a lot for 3 mana, giving you card advantage and value. For 3 mana, it's really good. And there's also, they're kind of pushing a bird tribal in this set. So the bird tribal might actually be relevant. Adventurer's Inn is a land town with, whenever this enters, you gain 2 life, add a colorless. So this card isn't crazy flashy, but normally a land like this would gain you only 1 life. So 2 is double that. It can be played in deck where you don't have too many colors and you don't mind playing a colorless source. And it could be really good. The best deck in standard right now is mono red, and gaining a life is a way to deal with it. It comes in untapped, it's just a nice little land. And I think it's a pretty budget land for most deck, but for life gain decks, it's actually pretty strong. The Darkness Crystal is 2 of any color and 2 black for a legendary artifact. Black spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile it. You gain 2 life. You can pay 6 mana, put target creature card exiled with the Darkness Crystal onto the battlefield tapped under your control with 2 additional 1/1 counters on it. So this card just does a lot. Making your black spells cost less is really nice. It's life gain, and it's a way to exile your opponent's creatures. So if they have some grave recursion, it stops that. And then you can instant speed put a creature that you exiled right into play. If you're playing against an opponent that has big creatures, this is really strong. And it's just good value all around. They reprinted Dark Confidant in Standard, which is really cool. So if you don't know, it's 1 of any color and 1 black for a 2/1 creature human wizard. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. So this used to be a Modern All-Star before Modern got absolutely crazy. But it is still very strong in Commander as a good card advantage source that comes with a body, but also in Standard, this card could be pretty crazy. If you're running a low curve, this won't lose you that much life, especially that lands have no mana cost and make you lose no life. So it's a really strong card advantage piece. My only problem with it is that mono red is busted. It's always been busted in standard. It's the best deck ever, and a card that makes you lose life isn't great. But it can draw you removal, which is really important to win that matchup. So it could be pretty strong in standard. So those were my top picks for this huge dump of cards. There's been so many crazy cards already revealed for this set. I am so hyped. So hope you guys liked the video. I had a blast. And please comment on the video what cards I missed and what your top picks are for this set. I would love to see that. Please like and subscribe and have a good one.